My name is Sophia Larkin. I'm 27, and for a long time, I thought my relationship with Paul, 29, was flawless. We'd been together for a year and a half, and every night I spent with him felt like home. We weren't living together yet, but it was close enough. Shared dinners, lazy Sunday mornings, movie marathons, endless conversations that stretched until sunrise. To everyone around us, we were perfect. To me, he was perfect. Until the first comment appeared. It started subtly. A notification popped up on Paul's phone. Isabel, his ex-girlfriend, had liked his new post. At first, I shrugged it off. Friends liking posts was normal, but then the likes turned into comments. Small at first, looking great, or love that shirt. Harmless enough, right? But soon it escalated. Every post, every selfie, every story. Isabel commented again, I said one evening, trying to keep my voice casual as we sat on the couch. I didn't want to start a fight. I just wanted honesty. Paul barely looked up from his phone. She's just being friendly, he said. I paused, watching him, trying to read his expression. Friendly? Friendly didn't usually include heart-eye emojis, playful teasing, or constant attention. My stomach tightened. It's a lot, I said softly. She's commenting on basically everything you post. Really? He raised an eyebrow, a faint trace of irritation. Sophia, you're being a little controlling. Control. That word hit me like a cold splash of water. My chest tightened. I'm controlling? I asked, my voice quieter now, almost broken. I'm noticing something that makes me uncomfortable, and that's controlling. He leaned back, crossing his arms. Yes. You're policing who I can talk to, who can comment, who sees what. That's literally controlling behavior. I thought you were different, but I guess not. I froze. I wanted to scream, to tell him he was misunderstanding me, but instead I felt a strange, crushing doubt. Maybe I was overreacting. Maybe I was the problem. Okay, I whispered finally. You're right. I'm sorry. Paul's eyes softened, and he smiled like a weight had lifted. See, that's all I wanted. Just trust me. Let me have friends. I nodded, though a knot remained in my stomach. Later that night, I found myself scrolling through my phone in silence, trying to make sense of it. Maybe I was too sensitive. Maybe I needed to relax. But deep down, something told me this wasn't just about a few harmless comments. Over the next few days, I tried to push the thoughts aside. Paul and I went about our routine. Dinners, texting good morning hearts, making plans for the weekend. Everything seemed normal. Almost. And then the panic began. It was Thursday evening when the first messages came. My best friend Roxanne texted, Sophia, are you okay? Did something happen with Paul? Confused, I asked what she meant. She sent screenshots. Paul's social media had changed. Every picture of us together had vanished. Every post we shared was gone. The photos from our trip to the lake, our favorite cafe, the concert where he kissed me in the rain, they were all erased. I stared at the screen, heart thudding. My first thought was fear, then anger, then disbelief. Why would he do this? Our relationship hadn't ended. He was right here. But somehow, deleting everything felt like a betrayal. Like he had erased our history without asking. I called him immediately. Paul, I said as soon as he picked up, voice trembling. What happened to our photos? He sighed, calm, too calm. You said I was being controlling, right? About Isabel? About social media? I bit my lip, fury and confusion colliding. Yes, but you deleted everything? Yeah, he replied evenly. Felt like a clean slate. You wanted less control. I removed myself from the equation online. Doesn't change anything here. Doesn't change anything, I echoed, voice rising. Paul, this is our life, our memories. You just erase them like they don't matter. I'm not erasing us, he said softly. I'm just not performing for an audience anymore. You said I needed to chill about Isabel. That's what I did. I slammed my hand on the table. The reality hit me like shards of glass. He had followed my instructions, yes, but misunderstood them entirely. What I wanted wasn't a digital deletion. It was accountability, boundaries, reassurance, not a public erasure of love. The rest of the evening spiraled into confusion and arguments. Friends began asking questions. Roxanne, Ashley, even my cousin Megan, texts and calls flooded in, all with the same theme. Did you break up? I stared at the phone, numb. The photos were gone. the proof of our connection erased. And yet Paul was sitting next to me, saying he loved me, saying nothing had changed. The tension between us became a silent, living thing. It hovered in the apartment like smoke. One wrong word, and it would ignite everything. I realized then, with a clarity that scared me, that the problem wasn't just social media, it was trust, perception, and the delicate line between public image and private reality. And lurking in the background was Isabel, unknowing yet ever present, a ghost of the past that had managed to worm her way into our present. Her comments, her attention, they were small, almost harmless, but now they had become the spark lighting a slow-burning fuse. I sat back, staring at Paul, watching him scroll on his phone. The man I loved was here, right in front of me, and yet the digital void between us, the deleted memories, whispered that something was already broken, something that couldn't be fixed by words alone. The next morning, I woke up with a hollow weight in my chest. The apartment was quiet, but it felt colder somehow. Paul was making coffee, humming softly, oblivious, or maybe purposefully detached from the storm I felt brewing inside me. I didn't speak right away. Instead, I stared at my phone, at the empty album of photos that used to hold our memories. Each one had vanished, as if they had never existed, replaced by a void. I felt unmoored, as though part of my life had been quietly erased without permission. By mid-morning, I made a decision. Not out of anger, though anger was certainly there, but out of necessity. I needed to reclaim control over my emotions. I needed to protect myself. I opened my social media accounts and methodically removed every post that tied Paul and me together. Couple photos, check-ins, selfies, candid moments, even vacation shots. I didn't block him. I didn't unfriend him. I didn't make it obvious. I just quietly erased all traces of our relationship from the digital world. As I pressed delete for the last time, I felt a strange mixture of relief and fear. Relief because I had taken back some agency over my life. Fear because I had no idea how Paul would react, or how this would change him in my eyes. Later that day, I called him. His voice answered, calm as ever. Sophia, what did you do? I removed our photos, I said quietly. I needed a clean slate, like you said, about not controlling things. A pause then. Wait, all of them? Yes, every single one. My voice trembled. Paul, this isn't about controlling you. It's about not being invisible. About not being the background in someone else's story. He exhaled slowly, the faintest edge of frustration creeping in. You really went through with it, huh? I had to, I whispered. I can't keep performing a relationship for everyone else while ignoring how I feel. For a moment, there was silence. Heavy, suffocating silence that stretched across the phone line like a shadow. And then he said softly, I guess I understand. But Sophia, you've made it worse. People are asking me if we broke up. The words stung. Worse? People asking? The external pressure felt suffocating. I wanted to scream, to tell him it wasn't about what anyone else thought. It was about us. I don't care what anyone thinks, I said, voice firmer now. I care about what this does to us, Paul, and right now I feel erased. He sighed. Sophia, I don't want to fight. I don't get it. I thought this was what you wanted. You told me I was controlling. You said I needed to chill. I did. I'm not controlling. I erased myself from your digital life just like you wanted. And now you're upset? I closed my eyes, pressing the phone against my ear as my heartbeat thudded in my chest. It wasn't about control. It was about boundaries, respect, acknowledgement. He hadn't understood, and now the consequences were cascading around us, like cracks spreading across glass. Paul, it's not about control. It's about respect, about recognizing that my feelings matter too, I said, trying to keep my voice steady. Every time Isabel comments, I feel invisible. And now, seeing you erase our memories, I feel like none of this mattered to you. Nothing mattered? He repeated, almost incredulous. Sophia, come on. I'm here. I'm with you. In real life, nothing changed. It's just online. Why does that even matter so much? It mattered because the online world had become a mirror of our relationship, a distorted, fragile reflection of love and validation. I wanted him to see that, to feel it the way I did. I wanted him to realize that performing a relationship for an audience wasn't the same as living it. Because online is part of our life now, I said, trying to stay calm but failing. And when our memories disappear from everywhere except here, it makes me feel small, like I'm not enough unless the world sees it too. He was quiet this time, listening. But his silence wasn't enough. The longer it went on, the heavier the tension became, pressing into the corners of the room, wrapping around my chest. The day stretched into evening. Friends began texting and calling again, asking if we were okay. Did you break up? I saw the photos are gone. Is everything fine? Each question was a reminder that the world had been watching, silently judging, waiting for the first crack in our picture-perfect facade. When I saw Paul that evening, he tried to make casual conversation as though nothing had happened, but the apartment felt like a minefield. Every word, every glance was loaded. I couldn't shake the unease. I couldn't unsee the way his hands hovered over his phone, ready to respond to notifications, while my mind replayed Isabel's comments like a relentless echo. I can't do this anymore, I said finally, sitting across from him, the words barely above a whisper. I can't just ignore how this feels. I need more than empty assurances. He frowned. Sophia, you're overreacting. It's just comments, just social media. I shook my head. It's never just comments, Paul. It's about respect, trust, and feeling like I matter. And right now, I don't. His lips pressed into a thin line. He wanted to argue, to justify, to deflect. But even I could see the tension in his shoulders, the hesitation that hadn't been there before. Something was shifting beneath the surface of our relationship, subtle but undeniable. And in that moment, I realized the truth. The digital world, which I had tried to manipulate to create emotional space, had exposed the fractures we couldn't see before. It had forced our vulnerabilities into the light, and once seen, they couldn't be ignored. I sat back, closing my eyes for a moment, breathing slowly, trying to calm the storm inside me. Whatever came next, I knew one thing for certain. This wasn't going to resolve itself with a simple conversation. Something had to change. The question was, would it be enough to save us? The weekend arrived, but instead of bringing relief, it felt heavier. Paul and I moved around each other like dancers stepping on a stage we no longer recognized. Words hung unspoken, glances were measured, and every notification on our phones made the air electric with suspicion and fear. By Monday, the tension had spilled into our friend circles. My best friend Roxanne slid into my DMs. Sophia, we need to talk. Everyone's asking me about you and Paul. They saw the post gone. They think something happened. I stared at the screen, my thumb hovering over the keyboard. My fingers itched to defend myself, to explain. But how could I articulate the chaos that had become my life? Roxanne, I didn't break up with him. I just needed space, needed boundaries, I typed slowly. She replied almost immediately. I get that, but people don't understand. They think you're overreacting, like you're punishing him. I sighed. That word, punishing, hit me in the chest. I wasn't punishing. I was surviving. But perception was everything, and perception was spiraling out of control. Later that evening, Paul returned from work. He looked exhausted, but his eyes, usually warm and comforting, were sharp, wary. I decided it was time to confront the real issue, the ghost in our room that neither of us wanted to name, Isabel. Paul, I began cautiously, we need to talk about her, Isabel. He froze mid-step, coffee mug in hand. Sophia, do we have to do this now? Yes, I said, voice firm but trembling. We do. I can't keep pretending this doesn't bother me. She's everywhere. Comments, likes, the subtle little jokes only you two seem to share, and I can't stand it anymore. Paul set the mug down slowly, leaning against the counter. Sophia, I swear, she's harmless. We ended things. She's just friendly. I shook my head, frustration boiling beneath the surface. Friendly? Paul, you call that friendly? Heart emojis, compliments, teasing, every single post, and then you expect me to ignore it and just smile? I didn't think it mattered that much to you, he said quietly. You said I was controlling. I thought I was following your advice, chilling out, letting her comment. And look where it got us, I snapped, hands trembling. Now everyone thinks we broke up. Our memories are gone. Our life is a question mark. You didn't just let her comment. You let her influence how our relationship is perceived, and you didn't even see it. He ran a hand through his hair, frustration giving way to guilt. Sophia, I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I was doing the right thing. You thought, I repeated, voice breaking. That's the problem. You thought. You didn't listen. You didn't see me. And now, I don't know if I even know who I'm with anymore. Silence filled the room, heavy, suffocating silence. His gaze dropped to the floor, and for the first time, I saw doubt flicker in his eyes. The charming, unflappable Paul, the man I thought I knew, was suddenly human, fallible, uncertain. I don't know what you want from me, Sophia, he whispered. What I want? I took a step closer, heart pounding. I want honesty. I want boundaries. I want a partner who doesn't need an audience to feel secure. I want to matter to you in real life, not just in photos, posts, likes, and comments. I want us to be us, without everyone else watching. His lips pressed into a thin line. He opened his mouth, then closed it. Then he finally said, "So, what now?" I swallowed hard, tears threatening to spill. Now, we see if we can survive this. If you can see me, really see me, and if we can exist together without needing the world to validate us. He nodded slowly, the weight of realization settling over him. I want to see you. I want us. But I don't know if I can change the way I've been. I felt the chasm between us grow, widening with every word. The longer we stayed in that room, the more I understood that the problem wasn't just social media. It was trust, respect, and priorities. It was the way Paul had let his past, Isabel, spill into our present, subtly shaping the boundaries he couldn't or wouldn't see. We sat there in silence, side by side, but worlds apart. And as I watched him, I realized the harsh truth. Love wasn't always enough. Not when perception mattered more than reality. Not when validation was more valuable than connection. And deep down I knew, without even saying it, that the choice looming ahead wasn't between right or wrong. It was between holding on to a version of love that no longer existed or letting go. By the following week, the apartment felt smaller, tighter, suffocating. Every corner seemed to hum with the unspoken tension between us. Paul and I moved like ghosts around each other, careful not to trigger arguments, careful not to reveal how fragile everything had become. Then came Friday. I had barely started my day when my phone buzzed incessantly. It was Paul, calling repeatedly. I hesitated, then answered, my voice shaky. "Sophia, we need to talk," he said, urgency lacing his tone. "Paul, you don't need to call 5 times in a row," I said, trying to keep calm. "We'll talk tonight." "No, now," he insisted. "Please, just meet me at the cafe on 5th. I drove there, heart pounding, mind racing. When I arrived, he was already there, hands wrapped around a mug of coffee, eyes avoiding mine at first. I sat down slowly, waiting for him to speak. Finally, he looked up. "Sophia, I've been thinking a lot," he said quietly. "About us. About everything." I braced myself. Every fiber of me knew what was coming, but I needed to hear it anyway. I can't do this," he said, voice cracking. "Not because I don't love you. I do. I really do. But I can't stop caring about how things look, how people see us. And I see now. You can't either. We want different things, Sophia." I blinked, trying to process. Part of me had known this was inevitable, but hearing it made the world tilt. "Different things?" I whispered. "Yes," he said, eyes glistening. "You want honesty, connection, boundaries. I wanted perception, validation, attention. And when we tried to merge those, it didn't work. The truth settled over me like a cold wind. It hurt, deeply. But beneath the sting, there was also clarity, the fight, the tension, the sleepless nights. It all made sense now. I see," I said, voice trembling but firm. "I wanted us. I wanted real us. And I can't force that if you're not willing or able." He nodded slowly, swallowing hard. "I wanted to be with you, in real life. But the rest, the social media, the attention, Isabel, I can't let that go. Not fully, and that's not fair to you." I took a deep breath, tears threatening to spill. "Then maybe it's time we stop trying to force something that isn't working." He reached across the table, hesitating, then letting his hand hover near mine before pulling back. "Sophia, I'm sorry. I really am. I didn't mean to hurt you. I thought I could balance everything, but I can't." "I know," I said softly, blinking back tears. "I forgive you. Not because it's easy, but because I want to walk away with my dignity intact." We sat there in silence for a long moment, sipping coffee, each lost in our own thoughts. Then he finally said, "I hope someday you'll find someone who sees you like you deserve to be seen." "And you," I replied quietly. Find someone who aligns with the life you want without having to compromise who they are. We stood lingering for a brief moment. I hugged him tightly, feeling the weight of everything, the love, the tension, the heartbreak. And then I stepped back, letting go physically and emotionally. Walking to my car, I felt a mixture of grief and relief. The relationship had ended, but the lessons were clear. Love wasn't about perception. It wasn't about pleasing the world or validating anyone's ego. It was about connection, respect, and boundaries. In the days that followed, I began reclaiming my life. I deleted most of my social media apps, keeping only the essentials. I spent time with friends, laughed freely, and allowed myself to feel the grief and healing simultaneously. And slowly I realized freedom didn't come from revenge, from anger, or from controlling the narrative. Freedom came from living life on my own terms, experiencing moments for myself, not for the world. Weeks later, I heard through mutual friends that Paul and Isabel had reconnected, publicly performing the relationship he had wanted all along. I felt no envy, no bitterness, just understanding. They wanted what they wanted, and I wanted what I deserved. For the first time in months, I slept soundly. I ate well. I laughed without restraint. And I realized that the best revenge wasn't proving them wrong. It was living right, authentically, on my own terms. I, Sophia Larkin, 27, finally understood. Life isn't a performance. It's a series of choices, and I chose me.